Welcome to Chess Techniques of the Shogun. There is a distinction between deflection and decoy. Now let's get to our first topic, chess tactics. On the subject of chess tactics, do you understand the difference between deflection and decoy? A deflection is trying to get your opponent's pieces away from a desirable square, whereas a decoy, you're trying to draw your opponent's pieces onto a desirable square. And with white to move, the move is rook to d7, sacrificing the rook. Now this is a deflection, and you will see why. Here, white wants to utilize the a1 to h8 diagonal, so getting the queen onto the light squares is what white wanted. Now the move bishop b2 is a game finisher. Bishop b2 check, and black is in Zugzwang. The only move that will give black just a little bit more breath is sacrificing the queen since the pawn is on c5. However, this move and this leads to checkmate. What if you interpose with the other rook? Then queen just captures on f8 because the rook is pinned by the bishop. And lastly, we're going to see pawn to e5. And now sacrificing the rook, queen captures rook. And now the move bishop b2 is check, pawn to e5. And now bishop captures the pawn, check. Any move from here loses. Capturing, we've already seen this possibility. And interposing with the other rook makes no difference whatsoever. What makes chess traps so dangerous is that they can lead to a significant loss of material or even the game. In this next game, we're going to see black accept the king's gambit. Here, black falls victim to a trap because of overconfidence or over ambitious moves. You accept the king's gambit, but we're going to see the mistake that black makes here. Knight c3, capturing on e4, and after the recapture, now you should seriously consider getting your king to safety. After this move, capturing the knight on f3 loses to knight f6 with a double check, even with the king on e2. I'm sorry, the queen. So the lesson here is to get your king out of the center and get your pieces developed as soon as possible. And this is another example of deflection. d4, c5, d5, e6, knight c3. After capturing and the recapture on d5. Knight to e7, bishop g5, h6 followed by bishop to h4 and queen to a5 check. You just simply block with the pawn. The knight goes after the bishop. What move should we make here as white? Sacrificing the queen. What does this do? Deflect the queen away from the dark squares so that white can deliver checkmate. After knight to c7, checkmate. In this position, we're playing the white pieces. However, black does have one pawn on b2, a rook on our side of the board on b1, and a knight on e2. So a few black pieces is on our side of the board. However, we have a knight on e7. We should be able to deliver a smothered mate. Do you see the move? Pause the video if you want. But here the move is queen to g8, check. The only move playable here for black is rook captures on g8. The only way to win this game is to capture the bishop. Black has no other choice other than to recapture and loses by force. After h captures g6, rook to h4 is checkmate.
Studying chess middle games offers several benefits. It can familiarize you with common patterns and themes.
And one of those things is to exploit weaknesses. Rook to e3 sacrifices the rook. The f pawn, if it captures on e3, will leave the g3 pawn undefended. For example, if white plays the pawn back to d1 in order to defend the f2 pawn, then the move for black here is rook captures knight on f3 with the threat of queen to h2, check. However, capturing on f3 leaves the e file open, so the move here for black would be rook to e8, threatening to go to e1. And now this forces white to play knight to e3 in order to block the e file. With the queen on the second rank defending the f2 pawn, the move is rook captures knight on e3. This is the second sacrifice of a rook. And the follow-up is just to simply capture on e3, or recapture rather. King over to e1. Knight wins the queen. And the other move is to use the rook to capture first on e3. Either way, black wins. And in this continuation, the move is queen captures pawn on g3 check. King h1 or king to f1 loses. Either way. Checkmate. Every single move on the chessboard has meaning, and with each move we keep changing the trajectory of the match. You're used to reading out of books, following opening lines, however, not familiarizing yourself with the traps Knight captures pawn on e4 with the idea of knight captures knight, which allows pawn to d5. Here, the move is bishop to d3. If you try to be tricky, unaware of the continuation, such as this one, the move here for black is queen to g5. What is the idea? From here, white has two ways to capture on c6. If bishop captures knight on c6, check, then we can just safely recapture. And here greed is punished. Queen captures pawn on g2, threatening to capture on h1. So moving the rook to f1 for safety, but this falls to bishop to g4, aiming for the queen. Pawn to f3, bishop captures, rook captures, and pawn captures, not queen. The threat now is to push the pawn to f2 with a discovered check. Pawn f2, king e2, or d2, it doesn't matter. A new queen with a discovered check, and black wins. Now, you ask the question, what if white captures the other way, with the knight instead of the bishop? For example, after queen to g5, knight captures knight on c6, then this is simple. Knight captures knight on c6, queen captures bishop on b5.
Studying chess in games is essential for improving your overall chess skills.
And in this game, white has to be careful. You don't want a stalemate. So what do you have to do here in this position? March the pawn either one or two squares. The only move for black is to capture. Here it's en passant. The trick is to step over one square, allowing one move, and the only move is pawn to c7, but you offer the next pawn. You have to continue to give the opponent a move. Now capture this pawn. Pawn moves, you do not capture the pawn. You step back, check, and step back, allowing the pawn to advance one more square. And after the pawn moves, you offer the next pawn. Black has the capture, and now you can capture this pawn, allowing the pawn to move, and you step over, and the only move is pawn to e6. You offer the last pawn. And after the capture on c6, you capture on d3. And white will win this endgame. And now we're going to look at one more in-game example. In this position, it is white to move. This is a forced checkmate. Your rook on a1, your king is on c8, and your pawn is on b6. The move here for white is rook to a6, and after Black's next move, it is a forced checkmate. Rook takes is checkmate. And if the bishop stays on b8, for example, after rook a6, and if black responds with pawn captures rook, then pawn to b7 is checkmate. Now, before we go on to our next topic, chess traps, please don't forget to hit that like button, share, and subscribe. For this last position, we're playing black. What is the move for us? You can pause the video. The move is bishop to g4, sacrificing the queen. Yes, that is correct. Sacrificing our queen on d8. And if white captures, we just simply block the check, delivering check. Rook to e8 blocks the check, and bishop on g4 checks the king on d1. And this happens to be a checkmate. Okay, thank you for watching. That is all I have for now. And don't forget to like and comment. Stay tuned.